Welcome to Brave. Be inspired by the best leaders of Southeast Asia tech. Build the future, learn from our past, and stay human in between. I'm Jeremy Au, a VC, founder, and father. Join us for transcripts, analysis, and community at www.jeremyau.com. Hey Valerie, good to have you on board the show.
Hi everyone. Thank you. Nice being here with you, Jeremy.
Well, definitely have a lot of fans and friends who are all here to hear you share your journey. So I'm excited to dig in. So, Valerie, who are you?
Yeah. So I tell a little bit about my story. I'm Valerie. I'm born and raised in Vietnam. I'm from a very working class, family. None of my family member actually has the chance and opportunity to go to college, but they work really hard to put me and my younger siblings through college. So when I grow up, as a oldest child and eldest daughter, I always have the pressure of being, the best version of myself because I have to look up for my younger sister and brother. So I have no margin for error as I feel when I was growing up. I didn't really have that chance in discussing about studying abroad. So I, bring up the topic to my family stupidly, even though we didn't have that financial support necessary. But my parents really went above and beyond, and they are entrepreneurs. So Vietnam joins the World Trade Organization in 2007, and they start their own business a little bit before, or 2 years before that. So they really put up everything they can and convinced me that the U.S. would be the best destination to study. And I had no idea what U.S. was at that time, but I just took the chance anyway without speaking any English. So I went to U.S. Without speaking English and having no family there. But I had a blast, and I started kind of going out of the comfort zone and challenging the status quo of what is meant to be a successful role model for my younger siblings. So when I was in college, I was involved with a lot of things. I was founder and president of Vietnamese student associations, president of Asian student associations, being involved with student government. I do so many things because I feel I'm exploring myself for the first time. And after college, again, I didn't have anybody in my family to set out the path, but yeah, they expect me to follow a corporate stable job. So I joined Deloitte after graduation, and I stayed there for 3 years. They actually gave me the best. Even though the working hours was long, they really support me through visa sponsorship, through help me with studying for my professional certifications. I had really good mentors and good coworkers. But again, I always have that drive of seeking new challenges. So at Deloitte, I was leading a blockchain initiative for Deloitte, helping them with gaining new crypto asset manager clients, seeking new challenges, being involved with technology initiative. So I feel the drive of disrupting and being innovator is being grow in me because I come from an entrepreneur family. As I mentioned, my family started their own business. So really, I didn't have any role model in my family that followed that corporate life. So after 1 or 2 years, I feel it's not really what I was thinking. I don't want to sit in the desk from day to night. I think I'm destined to do something more dynamic, and I can really contribute more if I go back to Vietnam instead of working in the US. So I decided to, at that time, I was flying back and forth between Vietnam and US. And I volunteered for some of the local incubators and accelerators, helping the founders with finance and hiring and business model, etc. And I feel a little bit FOMO again. Vietnam is so untapped and so underrepresented in the region. Everyone is talking about Singapore being the hub of Southeast Asia, or talking about Indonesia being the biggest economy in Southeast Asia. Or they talk about China as like they always get the biggest attention in Asia. And like my country, nobody really mentioned my country. And I am like fascinated by technology, right? And I was looking at the technology startup scene. It's so unfair that Indonesia has 8 unicorn at that time, around 2016, 2017. Vietnam having 100 million people, and the number of engineers in Vietnam actually exceeded the number of engineers in Indonesia. But we only have 1 unicorn at that time. A lot of other statistics that make me feel like frustrated in a sense. A lot of entrepreneurs, when I volunteer for the incubator, they have the same frustration with my dad. He couldn't get like financial support, couldn't get bank loans to grow his own business. So I feel like, I can contribute a lot more. And that's why I decided to move back permanently in 2019 and join Venturra as the venture capital of People Group in Indonesia and support Vietnamese entrepreneurs here. And lately, I have been helping with Launch Group. It's the biggest Vietnam startup community online on Facebook and in Clubhouse. So on Facebook, we have about 50,000 members. On Clubhouse, we are reaching 500 members. And I do like weekly activities where I invite Vietnamese founders to share their startup story. And I'm going to test out some other activities from next week, pitching why you should work for a startup, and where, talents can pitch their talents to startup employers or technology companies in Vietnam. And I will, try to make some more initiative for the Vietnamese startup community. So, it's some background about me.
So what I find interesting is that you mentioned your entrepreneur family multiple times, right? As an inspiration,
Yep.
As a way they got resources for you to go to university for the first time in the States, and also a role model when you were thinking about your corporate job, right? And whether to leave. What was it like growing up with parents who were entrepreneurs? What was it like?
Oh, they were never really around the family because they have to work like a lot long hours, and they're always on call. From my memory, they're always on call. They're always on the phone, always trying to make close that new clients, or meeting with the government official to work out with some regulation, or meeting with some banker to finish the to convince them to finance for their business. So very hustling. And so that's why I couldn't see myself in a corporate environment, because I never seen my parents like sit in the desk for more than like 3 hours. They're always on the road. And so that's why, like in a family, I kind of take care of my younger sister and younger brother. Yeah.
How was your mom and your dad different in terms of being an entrepreneur?
So they are like the founders lead. But my dad took care more of the like external relations, meeting with clients, meeting with government officials, and my mom took care of like the operation side, detail-oriented accounting, finance, etc. So I guess my dad played the CEO role, and my mom plays COO role.
Did you ever see them fight about the business growing up?
I don't think so, because they are in construction business, and it's not my passion. I love technology. I love new startup business. I love like innovative business model. So yeah, that's why I'm in venture capital, and I will see myself in some kind of a technology startup, not a construction industry.
Okay, so when you went to university, did you know that you wanted to be a startup founder or business person?
I didn't know what startup was at the time, but I know that I want to be a leader. I want to lead something. I always involved with multiple leadership roles in student organizations, mentoring like younger students. So yeah, I didn't know what startup was, but I believe I want to be like a leader. That's a strong drive in me. Yeah.
So how did you end up taking the corporate job, right? So your parents are, entrepreneurs. They work together. You wanted to be a leader, and then you joined Deloitte.
Right.
I think it's Deloitte, but
Yeah.
How did you end up doing that?
Yeah, it's funny, but my parents don't want me to come back to Vietnam, and they wish me like to stay in the U.S. to have a stable life. And so, they kind of try to influence me that, take the job in the corporate and then, wait until you have green card and then you can come back after you have the green card. So I was really good at math and at accounting and finance back in college. So that's how I got recruited to Deloitte. I think they liked my profile because I was really involved with student organizations, and I also like organized a lot of events for ASEAN Leadership. It's an Asian professional leadership in the U.S. So I was recruited, and I guess it's also to make my parents happy at that time. Work in the U.S. and eventually settle down there. But yeah, I never had that green card, and I just returned. And yeah, my parents thought it was a reckless decision, but I did it anyway.
Like what? Like father, like mother, like daughter? Is it?
Yeah.
So, but why did they want you to stay in the US? I mean, like they were successful to some degree in Vietnam, enough to send you to college. Is it because they felt like at a time they felt like America, you would have a better life in America? Why did they not want you to come back to Vietnam so early?
Yeah, so they believe I was not experienced enough. They always tell me don't follow entrepreneurship path. It's the hardest career in the world. And to do business in Vietnam without like a formal educations and they did not come from a privileged family or did not have the right connections is extremely difficult. So I think they've seen the country has gone through a dramatic economic transformations, but they also remember their childhood growing up in one of the poorest country in the world. So I feel like they did not want me to have the same kind of experience when they grow up. That's why they wish me to stay in the US.
So I understand the part about them wanting you to be in the US, right? Because, my parents also were like, oh, America is good. You should spend some time there. I get it. Oh, Valerie, I forgot to mention, I did spend a semester at Ascend as well, the Asian club.
Funny.
And then I was like, maybe I realized I wanted to do social impact consulting club instead, the Berkeley group. So anyway, but I think what was interesting in this story is that your parents who are business people, entrepreneurs, did not want you to be an entrepreneur. So that's the part that's funny to me, right?
Yeah.
So why did they not want their oldest daughter to take the same job as them, right? Why not?
Look, you gotta understand they have to take call at midnight in the middle of the morning, early morning, 3, 4 a.m. because something emergency happened. Or, some of the drivers had troubles and they have to resolve it at 5 a.m. in the morning. Who would want that future in life for their daughters? Of course they don't want that for me. They want a straightforward life, 9 to 5 kind of life. Yeah, and they see that Vietnam is not that developed still. We don't have that strong international footing as other countries such as Singapore. We still haven't taken the advantage of the best of the world, what has to offer, and so that's why they really don't want me to follow the same path. And also the lack of capital, very difficult political landscape to navigate around as well. Yeah.
So what was their reaction when you told them that you're coming back to Vietnam and you're joining Venturra Capital as a VC? What were they thinking?
Oh God, they thought I was reckless. They thought I was crazy, and we didn't speak for a couple months. And actually, when I decided to move back to Vietnam, I did not have the offer with Venturra. I was just like volunteering for local incubators and accelerators. And I at that time I had a bet. And I took a risk that if I come back, build my network, and just be helpful to the ecosystem and like build the ecosystem, something good will come. Like the opportunity will come, but I have to go back and contribute first. So I have that conviction. But they thought I was reckless and crazy, and yeah, we have some arguments. Yeah, that was the reaction.
Arguments.
Yeah.
Well. So I totally understand your argument, right? Which is, you saw Vietnam, you saw there's an opportunity, you felt that it was unfair, you wanted to kind of come back and give back to the ecosystem. I'm just kind of curious, how did you ever resolve that argument, or are they still arguing with you about it 1 year on?
Oh, well, it's resolved. Well, because I get an offer from Venturra. One of my investment became the first Vietnam startup to be admitted to Y Combinator, the world leading accelerator. And then I am preparing to become like a part-time associate lecturer at a local university. So, the achievement doesn't like all that progress doesn't come all at once, but they come slowly. And I show them what I have been doing and what is coming like after, and they understand slowly. And yeah, the argument is resolved. They become more understanding, and yeah, I think they are not questioning my decision anymore. Hopefully, yeah.
I remember when I came back and I was doing a social entrepreneur, and then my mom had and my dad had no idea what it meant, and so
Yeah.
so they would not talk about it, or they were just like, Jeremy's just doing something else, right? And then I think they only got it when I first got a newspaper article written about me, and then they were like, "Oh, okay, now we get it." They still didn't get it, but you know.
Yeah.
But they were like, "Oh, okay, I can show this to my friends." Anyway, and I was like, "Okay, at least now it's easier, right?"
Yeah.
Some of that external validation is important for them, I think, because they couldn't understand it. Yeah.
Yeah, agree. Like, just start sharing what are you doing, like, the event poster, and then the feedback from the Facebook group. And yeah, they start to understand.
No, one thing you mentioned that was interesting, of course, you shared about your dad not being able to get easy access to capital, right? As an entrepreneur. And now you're in the business of providing, capital, right, to entrepreneurs, right? Do you think about that?
Yeah. I think that's why I picked venture capital as the first career when I moved back to Vietnam. Because in my job, I speak with founders about their passions and dreams. And so in these conversations, I hear echo from my fathers, a hope for a more developed country, a country that can bring the best, talent, engineering talents to the world, but we don't get the same return on the fair basis level. So I hear the same frustration that my dad had, and they don't speak English well. Like, we get out of the war in 1975, so and we joined WTO in 2007. So not many people have the chance to go abroad and have that English skills, have the public speaking skills, and can express their vision and their ambition really well to investors. So I really hear the echo of my father. And even though like for the entrepreneurs, I cannot convince the IC to move forward because they don't understand what these entrepreneurs are trying to do because of the language barrier. But I keep the relationship level with them, mentoring them what they should do, like how to do a better pitch deck, what mistake they are making when they pitch to VC. So that's why I love this job. So far I love this career so far.
So that's interesting, right? Because a big part about being in venture capital is that when you get to say yes, it's amazing, right?
Yeah.
But you have to say no so many times, right? As well, right? And then you shared that for your father, people said no to him as well, right?
Yeah.
So do you feel like conflicted? Like you're like, oh, I don't want, like when I say no to this person, it reminds me of how other people didn't believe in my father.
No, you got to hear rejection and failure and learn from it. So I have to say no because I am not a partner, right? We have an investment committee and, the directors who are, the ultimate decision maker. I am, an ambassador who trying to vouch for them, for the entrepreneurs, who try to help them the most that I can. But at the same time, they also have to hear the truth. Like, why do the investment committee and the advisor, the directors say no? And, no doesn't mean the end of the road. After, send the rejection email, I usually like sit down and say, hey, what can you improve? And maybe because your traction is limited, maybe because you're pitching wrong, maybe you're not measuring your market size correctly, maybe your business is just it's a good business, it's a cash flow SME business, but it doesn't fit for venture capital return, like what we are looking for. So don't pitch to us, like don't waste your time. Go, like there are better financial resources that fit you better than venture capital. So even me myself, I get rejected. So I think getting no, getting used to no and being rejected it's not necessarily bad things. Yeah.
Did your dad ever share stories about his business, like getting rejected or getting feedback? I'm just kind of curious because on my side, my dad was also like entrepreneurial and he got rejected many times. And I would never hear those stories from him. He's a very, I don't know, Asian guy who doesn't say anything, right? But my mom would tell me.
Yeah.
My mom would tell me about some of these stories, right? So I don't know. Did you ever hear any stories?
Same. My parents also barely share about their personal venture, their business, but sometimes they do share. For them, getting no for financing is not as big as getting rejection from clients and from regulators as well. So there was one time we get that huge. He told me that he got that huge proposal from a Japanese buyers, and if we get that contract, I think we will be really like good. Like I think he was about to, he can retire if he win that client. But at the end, there was some difficulty with the lobbying process to the governors. So we did not get approval from the Ministry of Transportation, and so that project did not come to the end. And yeah, that's why he's still working now. But he does share, and because I hang out with a girl, her dad works in that ministry, so he was hoping that I can reach out to and change the ministry mindset from my relationship with his daughter. But really, like I couldn't do that because my friend told me that they don't discuss business in the household. So that's why that was the only time he shared about his rejection. Yeah, but I guess it's a really sensitive topic, and as a typical Asian household, we don't share intimately with each other, unfortunately. Yeah.
Do you think you do the same in your own household?
No, I'm not sure. I don't know. I haven't thought about it yet. Personally, I still feel like I'm quite young, so but probably I will be more open. Try to be more open. Yeah. How about you?
Well, it's a good question. I have a baby daughter, 4 months old. And
Aw.
yeah, some of these questions come in my head is like, how much do I want to share, right?
Yeah.
I think personally, I would be more open because I think there's so much. I think there's so much I could have learned as a kid if I heard the story, not because of the content or the moral of the story, but more about the process, right? And understanding that someone that was close to me and someone that I loved and someone who loved me went through that same process, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, I wouldn't have felt as lonely tackling some situations if I had heard the story from someone rather than, read about it on Google, right? Or got an advice from an advisor, right? So, sometimes it's like, it's funny where you're like reading a book, right? And you feel that the book is more, the narrator or the story, like, Marcus Aurelius, and he writes about meditations, and then, the stuff that he's struggling with, like, I don't know, what, 5,000 years ago, is the same problems I feel, right? And it's so weird to be like, okay, I feel more connection on this topic in this tough time with this very dead old, Roman emperor, right? But I didn't really hear that story from my parents, right? If that makes sense. Even though I know they went through the same experience and they came to some similar conclusions. So I think I would want to be there for my daughter and share about it, not because I want to share about it, but so that when she grows up and has her own tough times, she knows that she's not the only person to go through this tough time, right? Her dad was also stupid and build a startup, right? So and then probably I may be the same shoes. I might tell her not to be a founder.
Yeah. See, even you admit that being a founder is not the best idea, right?
Well, it's career wise may not necessarily be the best in terms of financial outcomes, but it could be good in terms of a career professional development outcome, maybe. Yeah, and then and because if you take the right attitude to it, I think you learn a lot, right? And you learn faster than you would at a consulting firm, for example, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Valerie, I wanted to ask you about this, right? Because, one thing that I heard from you was you were very frustrated, right? Because, you're like, it's very unfair that Vietnam has all these engineers and is doing the engineering work for so many companies, but there's, not much, startup activity in Vietnam. Tell me more about that. Why do you think it's unfair?
Personally, I feel like Indonesia has been getting a lot of attention because of their huge like market size, the biggest market in Southeast Asia. So every investor, like when they think of Southeast Asia, first they think of Indonesia. Second, Singapore as the hub, financial hub, talent hub, technology hub of the region. And then everything else seems blurry because all the big like Vietnam market combined with Philippines combined with Thailand maybe equal to I'm not sure what's the number, but yeah, maybe equal to Indonesia. So that's why I feel like we are so under tap of the venture capital in the world. However, it is changing. They start to see the talents are coming back to the country. We have a stable economy and growing at 6 to 7% per year. The mobile penetration and internet penetration is like above 60%. So what's next after Indonesia? It's so obvious that it's Vietnam, and so I think it's up and coming. It's coming now. So I feel like my effort has been answered. Yeah, and now we have two unicorns. When I moved back to Vietnam, there was only one. So now we have two. I think we have many more in the next 10 years.
Amazing, a doubling. Do you feel sometimes like you do worry about coming back home too early or too late, when you're in the US, where you're like, oh, is it too early to come back to Vietnam to do this technology ecosystem thing? Or were you worried like, oh, it's too late? Do you ever think about that?
I do think that it might get too late. If I get more than 5 years of experience in Deloitte, it will be too late. Because by that, I get too familiar with one industry, with one sort of working environment, which is very corporate. So I don't want to kind of make myself like idle. And I want to seek new challenges every 18 months. That's my personal goal. So even when I was at Deloitte, I was like constantly seek for new clients and write new like white papers with my partner and like participate in the client bidding process, even though I was only an associate at that time and like an Asian associate from Vietnam who speak like English with an accent. But I didn't care. Like I just want like new challenges. I always raise my hand every like 1 year to 18 months. So I do think that it might get too late if I stay more than 5 years, and that's why I decided to move back and leave Deloitte after 3 years.
So you came back, you're saying like, okay, you worry about it being too late. And then you start, being with the incubators, the accelerators. Was there anything that surprised you when you were during that time? Was there like misconceptions or, did your opinion change about the Vietnamese ecosystem?
So it's not like a change of opinion. It just iterates my conviction that the ecosystem is very potential but need more work from overseas talents, need more mentorship, need more people like us coming back to the region. So I do get a bit surprised that there are so many entrepreneurs and founders who cannot speak English really well and cannot express their ambition to foreign investors. And so that's why there was some, domestic investor who take advantage of that and, try to trick some terms, some weird terms here and there. And like not necessarily every founder is sophisticated enough to see that and they take the terms as it because they were not trained to understand what is the term sheet and what's the term that is founder friendly. So that was a shocking, I guess not shocking, but like a bit disappointing moment for me. Yeah, that's also iterate and proof for my conviction that that's why I need to come back.
Did you feel it was unfair? I mean, all these like, weird term sheets and everything. Did it make you frustrated to see that stuff?
Yeah, very. I was really like angry. Like how can they put in these terms and the founders didn't understand and just take the term sheet and just signed it on the spot? Like, why don't they, become more educated? But I don't blame the entrepreneurs. I don't blame the founders. Everyone has a different circumstance. I blame the investor who gave them that term sheet and who act very unprofessional. But then I realized that's the industry standard in Vietnam at that time. 2-3 years ago, where there was no VC, like no foreign VC, no foreign investor really care about Vietnam. As I mentioned, like they all look at Indonesia. But again, we are a different time now. If you look at regional funds in Southeast Asia, almost every fund has a Vietnamese associate, so they can communicate really well with the founders, speak Vietnamese to the founders, and explain like what's a good terms, what's a bad term, what they have to look for in term sheet, how to pitch, how to communicate better. And I don't see that weird terms, like weird term sheet flying around anymore. From the time that I moved back to Vietnam and now it takes 2 years to see that the situation and the ecosystem start to improve and start to grow.
Are there still things that frustrate you about the Vietnamese ecosystem?
No, I'm actually feel really pumped about our ecosystem. There are more foreign VC, as I mentioned. The talents overseas are starting to considering to move back home, and the domestic talents are getting like better with communication with English. A lot of university has been creating courses on entrepreneurship, on venture capital. Create investment club, create university incubator. So we also have like stronger support from the government with the Industry 4.0 initiative. So I'm just feel very more excited. Yeah.
So I guess when you say that you're excited, what are you excited about? Are you excited about the speed of growth? Obviously, you talked about unicorns growing. I think you talked about founders being more sophisticated. Like, what else are you excited about?
So all of the above, including foreign founders starting to come to Vietnam. So I've seen like Americans coming here. I've seen Europeans. I have seen Indians founders coming to Vietnam, and I don't see that it's like a competition for local founders. I think it's a fuel for local founders to be more motivated. As the foreign founders coming in the country and like calling more investment to the country. So yeah, it's also another aspect that I haven't mentioned, that we actually see foreigners coming to Vietnam and do startup in Vietnam.
You're excited about all these things. Obviously there's a ton of talent as well in Vietnam, many great engineers, many great local founders, many sea turtles coming back to Vietnam, and, more foreign talent entering Vietnam. So let's talk about something, because, you're like, okay, you're comparing, Vietnam versus Singapore and Indonesia, right? So Singapore's very small and very rich. Indonesia is very big, right? And has more to go. And then Vietnam is somewhere in the middle, right?
Yeah.
Is it like Goldilocks? Is it just right, the size, in terms of development and population? How do you think about Vietnam versus Singapore and Indonesia?
Yeah. So like all the aspect that you mentioned, but I want to like talk about our human capital. If you look at our PISA statistic, which is the measure the same and literacy level of our Vietnamese populations, and compare that to GDP per capita, we've seen some outliers, really. Like, as we thought that as the GDP per capita, the higher it is, the higher the PISA score is, right? But we see some outliers. So the Gulf region, the MENA regions have very high GDP per capita, but lower PISA. On the other hand, we have Vietnam, which have very low GDP per capita, but we have one of the world's highest PISA score. We're on the same, like on par with like Switzerland, but Switzerland GDP per capita is 8 times higher than Vietnam. So it's just fascinating, very fascinating for me to see that kind of like report and proof for my conviction for Vietnam. Yeah.
Why is the education outcome so good? Is it because of the parents? Is it because of the educational system? Could you explain that for the people who don't understand the Vietnamese education landscape?
Yeah, so majority of our education system is sponsored by government. Public education has the largest market share. We don't really have to pay for too much for education. And I think as a Vietnamese person, like in our culture, like education is so important. We came out of the war in the mid 70s, as I mentioned, and really joined the war economy in the late 80s and beyond. So we are so motivated by like having a better life, providing to be able to provide for our family. And education is like the only way to do it, as you know, our parents often say. So inherently in our culture, also the government has provided us with really good public schools. So that's I think that's why the PISA score we have that outliers.
So is that why Vietnamese engineers are so renowned around the world? Is it because of the education system? Is that because the education system you just talked about is more for like elementary school, secondary school, high school, but I feel like in order there's so many people looking for Vietnamese engineers or stuff like that. So it's not just that, right? Is that like was it like at a university level?
Also, the same with university. Most public university are actually the top universities, and you need to be like the best kid to pass that entrance exam to enter top public universities. And the tuition is like very affordable. And back in the time, we have so our country all owe a lot of other countries because we were fighting for the war. So we pay that debt by sending our best professor overseas to teach all the country. And when they finish their mission in those of country that we have owed them, they have to come back to Vietnam and like teach local university, public university, because of the arrangement with the government. So the best professors actually teach at public universities, and so that's why we have amazing talent and engineer talent come from Vietnam because the public education is so affordable. And yeah, the top professor actually stay in public university instead of going to private university who might pay them more. Yeah.
For those who don't know Vietnam, like what are the most respected jobs? Is teaching a respected job? Is being an engineer a respected job? Like what are the jobs that people are like, okay, this is like something we respect?
I think just like any other Asian culture, right? Engineer, doctors, government official. So very similar to Singapore in other Asian culture. Yeah.
Actually, I think in Singapore, I don't think engineers are very well respected.
Oh, really?
I would say like doctor, lawyer,
Yeah.
government. Yeah, maybe those are the three out here, I think. So it's a little bit different. So I didn't hear lawyer for Vietnam, huh?
Because lawyers are often associated with like government official. So yeah, they also belong to the highly regarded career. Yeah, but I don't know a lot of lawyers from my experience. Yeah.
Yeah. So Valerie, so I was kind of curious. You've done a lot of, you've been doing venture capital and then obviously building out the local ecosystem. Can you tell us more about your Launch a Vietnam startup community that you've been building?
Oh, so Launch is a. I'm not the founder of Launch. So Launch was founded by James Vuong. He was one of the country, Vietnam earliest venture capital. He started out in IDG Ventures, and then he moved on to do like two startups. The first one he already successfully sold to Line Corp, and now he's doing a second one, Infina, which I already have him as my co-host of my weekly founder story. And I also interviewed him before, and I think you should interview him next. So he's a founder of the group. I just come in and help him like manage and grow that community. So now 50,000 members, mostly active on Facebook. But we have seen like some amazing stories from the group, really. Like we have seen startups finding investors and venture capital from the group. We have seen startups that successfully found a co-founder from the group. We have seen like startups that found clients from Launch Group. It's a Facebook group, right? So a lot of people can post their questions, their requests, their demands, their concern, and their products. when they launch their product, they post and advertise for their product as well on that group. So it has been a very active community. I just come in and do a weekly community session by having the founder store. Next week, I will also have talent pitching to employers who are top tech companies and startup in Vietnam. We used to have like offline events, but after COVID, and we learned that it doesn't have to be offline. We can just meet every week on Clubhouse. So really, the community has been very amazing. Like our mission is sharing knowledge together and sharing insight and helping each other grow. Yeah.
Why do you think the community is successful? Is there some secret sauce, or because a lot of communities they start and then they die, right? Or there's a lot of communities that start, they get somewhat big, but it's pretty quiet and nobody's helping each other. So why do you think this community is successful?
You have to keep the engagement rate, every week. If nobody is posting anything, somebody has to take initiative to post something and create new content, I guess. So that's why I have that weekly founder story. And it's kind of like a network effect. Once somebody successfully found a co-founder or successfully found a first investor from that group, they will keep telling their friends, their other startup founders to, hey, join this group. It's amazing. So continuously reinvent yourself, creating new content, bringing value to each other, a group like launch. But again, you should interview James. He's a founder of the group, and he has a lot more to share.
Maybe for sure for next time.
Yeah.
So Valerie, I'm going to ask you a few quick questions, and then you just tell me, off the top of your head what your answer is, okay?
Sure.
So Valerie, what's your favorite book?
Favorite book, The Alchemist. But recently I like Edge by Laura Huang. I think you have her on your podcast.
What did you like about Edge by Laura Huang?
I really feel the version of myself being in that book, did not necessarily come from the best background or, but how to turn adversity into your delight to other people, how to enrich, relationship with others. Really, I found that book very powerful and applied well to my situations. Being mostly the only woman in any kind of environment. So yeah, I kind of strongly recommend that book for those who feel like they did not come from the right background or having the right resources. Yeah.
Awesome. I love that book as well. Yeah, and you can go to the podcast as a past podcast guest. What's your favorite movie, Valerie?
My favorite movie is Interstellar. Yeah.
Why do you like this Chris Nolan movie? Yeah.
Again, I'm very fascinated by fiction, by technology, by also to see that the father-daughter relationship really is really touching.
And then last question is, if you could go back 10 years in time, what advice would you give yourself?
I would tell myself to don't stress too much, take life a little bit easier, and travel more. Try some more risky ventures. Don't be afraid to fail. Yeah.
Do you think yourself 10 years ago would have listened to your advice?
I think yeah, I think so, because there was the period that I want to try everything, I want to do everything, but then I was hold back by parents' expectation that you need to go to a corporate environment and whatnot, and I followed them at that time. So I wish I would to actually be more honor my own self more. Yeah.
Wow, that's really important. Well, for those who want to reach you, how can they reach out to you?
I am very active on LinkedIn, so they can find my LinkedIn. I am active on Clubhouse as well. Shoot me ideas on what I should do next on Clubhouse. I love this community. And you can also add me on Facebook, like Valerie Van Vu, because I manage that launch group. So I have to be active on Facebook as well.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Valerie. And now, if anybody wants to ask some questions, feel free to raise your hand and we'll go from there.
Thank you, Jeremy. I really enjoyed this, and it's been a while that I kind of shared this much about myself.
Hey, Adrian, you want to ask Valerie a question?
Hey, Valerie, I've heard you speak like multiple times and like on other rooms, and I attend your talk shows weekly. But I think I'm very glad to hear your story and know you better as a person. But I kind of just wanted to just curious, like I know we always talk about work because Vietnamese people like to talk about work and work. But what do you like to do for fun? Like how do you relax and after like a long day of being a VC?
So tomorrow I have a boxing session, and so that's a fun activity for me. I also go on a hiking, trekking trip once in a while with my group of friends. So and I guess reading, sometimes going for a run. But you gotta like keep a routine that make you like really enjoy, such as like boxing for me. So yeah, I find that these activity are really fun.
That's awesome. How did you find out boxing was your outlet?
From my friend, she's Vietnamese adoptee. She was adopted by a Swedish family, and she's actually a pro boxer. She earned gold medal in a boxing competition in Sweden. Really smart girl. She's doing a startup as well. So I met her in that startup environment, and she asked me to join the training session with her. So that's how I knew about this sport.
Awesome, Valerie.
Yeah.
I do have to admit that I did use the boxing gym quite a bit when I was doing my startup because, if there's someone I disliked, I imagine the person was the boxing bag.
Yeah.
Lyndon, do you have a question for Valerie?
Yeah, Valerie, hi. Thank you so much for sharing. I found it, very intimate, and thank you for all the very candid sharing. My question is this: I share a frustration about, kind of Indonesian startups getting a lot more kind of like outsized attention. I'm wondering, like, in your investments or like even in your firm, are Vietnamese startups like almost held to a higher standard? I guess in a sense, if you have the same kind of company, same technological maturity, same business model, same market, like would the partners kind of be expecting kind of Vietnamese startups to kind of pull off like a higher standard just because the market itself is like slightly smaller than say like an Indonesian startup?
Yes,
that's my question.
Yeah. Unfortunately, yes. We have to have a higher standards, because our market is smaller, and that's a fact. What we look at, when we talk to a team, we think of market size the first. So if assuming they tackle the same industry, same business model, etc., and the quality of founders are like fairly similar, of course Indonesia will get more attention just because of the market size. Yeah, good questions.
Chang, do you have a question for the Valerie?
This is June speaking. Yeah, I was browsing around. I was hopping in and out this room for a while. Got lots of stuff to do. But yes, thanks Jeremy and Valerie for having this room, sharing your thoughts about things around South Asia. I don't have questions. I just want to share a little bit about myself. So getting any suggestions from you guys. I was born in Vietnam and I spent 4 years in Thailand doing my bachelor degree in entrepreneurship. I'm going to graduate in May, and somehow I'm fascinated with the financial modeling. So I hope that with my entrepreneurship degree and my passion in financial modeling, I could get into any VCs. So I'm looking for VCs. Maybe in South Asia, I got an offer from my mentor, but it's not finalized yet. Deloitte might be a good choice for me. I mean, Big Four always a good choice. I've done several internships in different startups across the world. That's my story. Any suggestions?
Congrats on the offers. And it's interesting that you study in Thailand. Not many people pick that option, I guess. But I would say don't go work for Big Four. Don't go work for corporate. You're so young. Like try something risky once in your life. Like go work for startup. Go work for at least venture capital. Yeah.
Thank you very. Actually, I'm aiming for VCs, but VC in Vietnam, I heard that VC and PE in Vietnam, they are really, really playing low. I mean, no headhunter, no everyone doing directly recruit for them. They all use referred candidates, and I was lucky enough because my mentor, he worked in he's working in a VC. So he said that he offered me a chance, but it's not finalized yet. Yeah, and for sure I will go for VC because I hope that my entrepreneurship degree and my passion in finance might help me and might make me a good fit to a VC.
So I don't think career in venture capital is about finance. I mean, it is, but not the most part. Like you should build a strong conviction on what the future will look like, what the technology trend will be, and convince them by, backing up with your investment thesis and back up for your chain of thought, rather than just understand about financial modeling. And having some founders to recommend and to vouch for you will be another way to get into VC. Yeah, actually, I was recommended by a portfolio company to join Venturra. So that's how I got the job. It's not like I was familiar with financial modeling and I got the offer, right? So that's how you can show your values and really join and be a part of VC, from my opinion.
Yes, great, Valerie. Thank you very much. Definitely, I would look at your options. Thank you very much.
What do you think, Jeremy?
What do I think? I think Valerie is spot on. I think venture capital has very little to do with the financial modeling piece. And obviously, Tran, obviously you're not saying that that's the only thing that you bring to the table, but, I think it's really, like Valerie said, your ability to help, startups, your ability to be value add, and then eventually ask founders if they want to team up and collaborate together. That's really kind of like the crux of it, right? So I think that's something to think about. I actually am publishing very soon like a short piece on my website. There's an internal community, so club.jeremyau.com. But basically, it has a lot of resources that I've created for people who have asked me about how to get into VC. So I've just put together a short list of these are all the things that I read that were very helpful for me, right? And obviously, you should read your own resources, but I think it covers 80 to 90% of the stuff I can talk about as well. So hopefully that helps, Tran. And maybe the last thing I'll add to that is, I think when we think about venture capital, I think people are very focused on saying I need to be a VC associate, right? Which is at a traditional venture capital firm. But I think, that a lot of ways for people to get there, but you just take a little bit more time, right? So you can work at an accelerator, you can work at a venture studio, you can even work at a regulator, right? Or a government agency that handles it. There's a lot of what I call stakeholder agencies that are supporting the founder ecosystem, right? And so that's a good way to join those things and then practice adjacent skill set. Or, the other approach is honestly, just join a startup and, kick ass and grow the company, right? Because, there's so many VCs who are looking for people who have actually, been, a startup operator, founder as well. So I think that's just something to think about. It's just there's some lateral moves that you can have to explore.
Yeah, agree.
Great, Jeremy. Thank you, Jeremy and Valerie. Yes, actually, I'm looking for a startup here. Yeah, my things for that options is quite realistic. Yes, I will go for it. I'll try with that. Thank you very much.
No worries.
Awesome. Okay, Valerie, I think we pretty much hit all the questions that we have here. So thank you so much for taking the time to do this.
Thank you so much. Really enjoyed this.
I'll see you around, Valerie.
See you around. Have a good night.
Thank you for listening to Brave. If you enjoyed this podcast, please share this episode with friends and colleagues. Sign up at www.jeremyau.com to discuss this episode with other community members in our forum. Stay well and stay brave.